Hi everyone and welcome back to the next diecast. For today's video I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale Chrysler PT Cruiser Convertible styling study concept made by Motormax. I got this model off eBay for only $12. It was actually an auction buy. I was the only person that bid and I ended up winning it for $12, and I only paid maybe $19 in total for the price of the model including shipping. So I thought that was a pretty good deal, especially considering that Motormax does not make this model at this point. When they were actually making it, it was available in this dark blue that you see here, and also a metallic red with the same color interior. So this is quite the unusual car, as many of you can already tell. This is actually based off the concept version of the convertible that was shown, I think it was either in 2001 or 2002 at the New York Auto Show. And the production convertible is pretty much the same thing. I don't think it came with these chrome wheels, but everything else about this is the same from concept to the production version. Of course, in 2006, the headlights would be changed and a couple of other outside details. But this could be passed as a 2005 model because it is very similar. Like this prototype is very similar to the production version. Overall, in terms of details, I would say that this model is actually better than the Chrysler GT Cruiser that Motormax also made. I reviewed that back in the spring, and its details weren't the best. And this one has some flaws with it too, but I would say that there's less flaws with this convertible compared to the GT Cruiser. So go ahead and get started here with looking at the details of this strange-looking car. We'll begin up here with the front here. I think the headlights overall, they did a good job with the shape and the appearance, aside from these two pegs you see here, but there's no big gap or anything like that. On the GT Cruiser, there's a massive, massive gap between the top of the light and like the metal work. And the grille here also looks great. It's actually done in metal, just like the rest of the front of the model is. Could have used a little bit more depth to it, but at least it looks good with the overall shape and whatnot. And this bumper here is actually plastic, but it is actually body colored to match the paint of the model, so that looks good. And you see there's actually lower fog lights down here too. They have pegs on them, but at least they're separate pieces. They're not just painted on. And then you get a small Chrysler badge in the center here. A little bit of scuffing with the paintwork on here. Speaking of the paintwork, the paint overall on here, I would say, is well done. This is like a dark metallic blue. It was offered on a lot of different Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep models in the early to mid 2000s. I think the metallic appearance looks great. There is a little bit of orange peel here and there, but aside from that, I think it's a great paint job, especially compared to the GT Cruiser that had some, some metal seams showing and some underspray. I think on this one, they did a good job. Taking a look at the side here, we'll take a look at these wheels. These 5-spoke chrome rims were on the real prototype, and they would actually make it to the production version too, only I think they were just offered in silver instead of chrome. And the disc brakes do spin with the wheels, but also the calipers spin, which shouldn't be happening. The calipers should actually be staying stationary, but at least the disc brakes spin. They do look a bit cheap because they're completely chromed out, but at least they're there. And the wheels do look great, especially paired up with this dark blue paint scheme. On the side here, you do get the PT Cruiser embossed on either side of the doors here. It's actually kind of a matte finish too, which I think is a pretty cool. You actually get a separate chrome piece here for these door handles too, and a tiny Chrysler badge on this roll bar. I don't know if on the production convertible that actually has the badge on it, but you do get the roll bar, which kind of adds to the weirdness of this car. Speaking of the roll bar, that's fully framed in metal, and same thing with this windshield here. And the mirrors, which is very cool to see. Now, the mirrors don't fold like you saw on the GT Cruiser, but at least they're made of metal. I think they did a great job. We'll take a look at the back here. There's a much bigger Chrysler badge here. It actually pops out a little bit too. It is painted on. It's not like a separate piece, but I think its overall fit and finish is just great. Very small kind of Chrysler inscription in the center of that. And the taillights, I would say, are fairly well done. They have a nice texture to them, but there is kind of a big fat peg on the side, as you can see there. And you do actually get these reverse lights back here, too. They're painted on, but at least they look good overall. Now, one cool feature that this model has is that it actually comes with a removable soft top roof. You can put it on and off. There's actually some little tabs on the bottom that fit into the car. So to do that, now when the model is bought new, or when the model was made in the factory new, it came with this part on, with this tonneau cover on, and this is actually inside the box in like a separate little like sleeve or something like that. So to kind of switch the tops, all you got to do is just kind of pull up on this. It makes a horrible snapping noise, and I actually released one of the tabs to kind of make this a little bit simpler for the video. But as you can see, it hooks onto place like very, very well. And you actually might have to use a kind of a prying tool, maybe like a small screwdriver, to actually get this off when you do it for the first few times. But to put this top on, what I do is I kind of hook it onto the windshield frame first, like that. And then I just kind of match up the rest of the tabs with the holes that they're supposed to go in. And it is a bit of a process. It may take a little bit of time, but once it is on there, it looks very nice. So maybe even start back here. You kind of fit the tabs in place. And it's hard to do with one hand too, so keep that in mind. Just gonna kind of go around and make sure that they're all in place. All right, now there it is, fully in place. I think this model looks great with this roof on or off. And you can actually lift it up like this, and the roof actually stays on. I wouldn't be lifting it up constantly like this, but if you're moving it like from the shelf to like another shelf, or like putting it back in the box or taking it out of the box, it's certainly okay to lift it up like this, because the tabs actually hook completely into place. And the roof fits very flush too. It almost looks like this roof doesn't even come off. So that's a really cool feature. Now, Hot Wheels actually made their own 1/18 scale PT Cruiser convertible. It's slightly better in terms of quality and details, but you do not get this roofable roof feature that you do on the Motormax version. So I think that's a cool touch. So go ahead and take this off, and then I'll put the tonneau cover back on. Taking it off is also kind of a chore. You gotta it just kind of snaps off like so, just so we can get a better view of the interior. And then kind of the same thing. I use the rear tabs first, and I hook it into place, and then push it down. And there, you have it back on. Now looking at opening features, we'll start back here with this little tiny trunk. Opens up like so, just like on the real version. Not too much to see in there in terms of detail, and it's kind of a small trunk too. The convertible didn't do as well compared to the regular PT Cruiser because, one, it was just downright strange looking. And also, you lost like the utility aspect that you would get in the regular PT Cruiser. The trunk space was very limited. On the PT Cruiser, of course, you had a full kind of hatchback door that opened up and allowed for more space. On the convertible version, you still had a trunk, but it was just very small. But Motormax, I think, did a good job with the details in here. There's like kind of like reservoir, like lip here, and the part where the trunk would actually latch shut. There actually is a plastic liner underneath this little door here. And you can actually see the back seat too, which I think is a cool touch. And when you close it up, it is very flush. Like there's no big gaps and whatnot. All right, we'll take a look next at the engine detail. So pretty much the same engine that we saw in the GT Cruiser, just kind of one plastic piece. There maybe is a little bit more detail in here. Like, I don't know if the GT Cruiser has these two silver, like caps and whatnot. But overall, I think they did a decent job. It doesn't like move. Sometimes these one-piece engines will move around when you touch them, but in here, but with this engine piece, it kind of stays in one place, which is nice to see. So there's kind of a lack of detail in here, but I think what's there looks okay. You can always maybe color in some more silver and other details in here to make it look a little bit better. And this part here actually is metal, like the rest of the body. And there's actually a bit of underspray with these dog-leg hinges. It looks like they dipped part of them in paint and left the rest as bare metal. That's kind of strange, and they're really big dog-leg hinges too. I think on the real PT Cruiser's hood, it opens up, like there might be these like hydraulic hinges that open up on the sides, but on this model, they put them in the center. So go ahead and close that up here. You almost think like you're gonna break the hood when you close it. A lot of Motormax models have that issue. Like when you open up the part, like the hood or the trunk, it opens up fine, but closing it, you feel like it's just gonna snap or break or something, or make a horrible noise. So go ahead and close that up. We'll take a look at the interior detailing next. Now, compared to the GT Cruiser, I would say there's definitely more color It isn't just all one like color. You can see, especially when looking at the door panels here, which do have some sun damage on them. You can see it's kind of a tannish color, like the gray kind of faded to look tan. And it's kind of seen on this driver's seat too. It looks a bit bad, especially when looking at it in certain lighting, but this is kind of, I guess, just a factory defect or just due to the model's age. So just watch out for that. And I'm sure there's a way to kind of return the color back to gray. I'll have to look into that. Maybe it's just a matter of cleaning it up, but I'll have to take a look and see if I can get rid of that kind of tan hue on here. But it's very hard to see if it's not in like direct lighting. And it is contained a kind of part of this seat and the door panels. Speaking of the door panels, compared to the GT Cruiser, you get a lot more coloring and a lot more detail. You can see there's actually a functioning door pocket with the little holes that the real PT Cruiser had. I don't know why they put those holes in there. I guess kind of like a styling thing. And this handle is actually a separate piece, and you get a little bit of kind of reddish brown on there and gray. I think it's definitely an improvement. And these doors are actually very big and wide too. I think that's how it was on the real car too, because it was only at 2 doors, so you had more room, I guess, to have bigger doors. And the seats overall, I think, look nice, aside from this kind of sun damage on here. But the overall shape and everything looks great. They have kind of a nice like pattern on them, like leather almost. And these little kind of two-tone inserts, like these little brown inserts, they wouldn't, I don't think they would make it to the production convertible, but on the prototype, they really do look cool. And you even get seat belts too. But of course, they're way too fat and they kind of bend out way too much, but at least they're there. But at least they have them on there. And you see there's actually some seat belts on these back seats too. Not really sure what's going on there with these kind of like Z shapes, but again, at least they add that. At least they add that as an extra little detail. Taking a look at the dashboard, it has pretty much the same steering wheel and center stack as the GT Cruiser. Same kind of plain looking pieces. There's no like coloring with there's no like detailed coloring or anything like that. All the buttons are there, they just aren't really colored. And like, you can actually make out like the stereo system and the HVAC controls. They're just not colored in or painted on. And most Motormax models from this period of time will kind of have that flaw. But at least they do a decent job with shaping everything and whatnot. And you do actually get this cool feature on the dashboard where the center on this side and behind the steering wheel, like with the gauge cluster, it actually matches the body of the car. This was an option on the real PT Cruiser, both on the convertible and the regular version, and I think it looks really, really cool. The GT Cruiser, it's just the dashboard is just all kind of one plain color, but on here, not only do you get this these metallic blue inserts, but it's also kind of a two-tone dashboard. Like it's light gray on the underside, like with the glove box, and it's darker gray on top, and with the steering wheel and the center stack. And I think that's a great improvement over the GT Cruiser. On this side, you do get a couple pedals. They're kind of painted to match the dashboard and the seats. I might make those silver, but at the same time, they do actually still stand out because the flooring is actually done in like a darker gray. But they look good overall. They're the right size and shape compared to the rest of the model. And the gauge cluster looks pretty good as well. There's actually 3 separate stickers. Instead of just putting one giant sticker on there, they do 3 separate stickers. And I think that's a cool touch. Take a look at the undercarriage next. Not really too much to say. It's very plain, like most of these models are. You just kind of get the chrome exhaust system and maybe a little bit of detailing with these rear wheels, but that's about it. And you do get full steering. I forgot to mention that. There's no suspension because Motormax, they don't do that. But at least you do get the steering. Overall, if you can find this unusual model, I would say it makes for an interesting addition to your collection of 1/18 scale cars. And it is no longer being made, but it does pop up on eBay from time to time. And again, it came in dark blue and like the darker red too. But if you can find it, I would say, especially if you're a fan of PT Cruisers, which there's not many of us, but it's definitely a very strange car. And I think for that reason, it is kind of cool. But if you're a fan of the PT, or if you just want an unusual model for your collection, this is definitely one to get. As always, thanks so much for watching, and feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on the PT Cruiser and this model. Thanks for watching.